another Directed IRA workshop. We got a very special topic with a very special guest that's going to come on here pretty shortly. We're going to make some quick announcements, guys, and we got a really big announcement, and I'm going to let Aaron come in and talk a little bit about an event that we've got coming up. It's the event that we only do once a year. It's our biggest event of the year, and I'm going to share this, and Aaron, you take it away and talk about what we got coming up in October.
Great. Thanks for everyone for joining us live, and this will be recorded, so we'll throw that up as well. But on October 24th and 25th, here in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is we're headquartered in Phoenix, Directed IRA is, that is, we are hosting the Alternative Asset Summit. Like Nate said, we do it once a year. We're expecting, around 300 total attendance. We have a limited availability. I think we got maybe 50 or 60 tickets still left for that. Want to thank our featured expert today also, Eckerd Enterprises. They are our title sponsor this year, which is a big deal. So we want to thank them and thank them for being on today. It's going to be a great event. You can see here all the different things we're going to be covering, but we got like 20 plus speakers. We have several panels we're doing. We do have one day we're doing a couple breakouts. We have entertainment and networking each evening. And then we have a golf tournament, little scramble competing for the Roth Cup on that Saturday. So the event's all day Thursday, Friday, October 24, 25. You can go to altassetsummit.com, see the full agenda, see all the speakers, the different topics we're covering. And really the purpose of this event is not just talking about self-directed IRAs, but all alternative assets that we do, that people are doing, and some of the speakers' expertise and some of our sponsors. Want to thank all of them. So I think, Nate, you have a promo code there. If you enter in Nate100, you can get $100 off. I think we only have 1 or 2 VIP tickets left. I got the update on that this morning, but I think got around 50 or 60 general admission. And if you can't make it live, which I hope you can hit it up virtually. You can grab a ticket that way as well. Although nothing beats going to networking with other peers and colleagues, maybe finding your next deal that you want to do, or just making a great relationship in addition to just being there live to get the knowledge and information there. So hope you can make it there. It's going to be a great event. Again, want to thank Eckerd for being our title sponsor, and excited to hear from Derrek today as well.
Thanks, Aaron. If you guys want to scan that QR code, let me make sure, let me present this a little better. If you guys want to scan that QR code there, you guys can go right to the, or just go to altassetsummit.com. And like Aaron said, there's only 1 VIP ticket, I think, available. So you might want to go shoot for GA, but being there is no better than, obviously virtual is okay, but being there, you're going to be able to network with people from across the country. And we got some high level speakers. So thanks, Aaron, for touching on that. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well. So let's jump into the topic here, and we're going to be talking about not only self-directed IRAs, but mineral rights specifically. Mineral rights is not a new investment, by the way, guys, but it's new to a lot of people who are out there trying to find, real estate deals. And one of the greatest unknown real estate investments on the planet that's least understood is how to make money on real estate below the ground, not just above the ground. And we've got an expert in the field that's going to talk about what mineral rights are, what are the pros and cons to owning mineral rights, and then I'll tie it together on how do you use your retirement account, your old 401k, your old 403b, your IRAs, your HSAs. How do you use those types of accounts to not only invest in alternatives, but specifically mineral rights? How does it work, and how do you do it completely tax-free? As we go through any education that we provide here at Directed IRA, remember, we're not financial advisors. We're not telling you what you should or you shouldn't invest in. We always encourage you to consult with your financial professionals. However, we do provide a lot of education for people that are interested in investing their retirement into things that are not publicly traded. That's what we do at Directed IRA. We provide a vehicle to you if you want to invest your retirement into alternative assets instead of just traditional assets like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Most people don't even realize that you can invest in what we call alternative assets. And alternative assets is very wide in scope. Basically, anything that is not a publicly traded investment is considered an alternative asset. When you look at the tax code, as far as what the IRS allows us to hold as an investment inside of a retirement plan, it doesn't limit us to just stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and CDs. Those are just traditional investments. That's just one asset class. When you look at the tax code with IRAs specifically, there's only two investments you're not allowed to hold inside of an IRA, and that's life insurance contracts and collectibles. Those are the only two investments that the IRS says we cannot allow that in an IRA. With any retirement account, it's pretty wide open. So if you want to invest your retirement into real estate, that could be single family real estate, multifamily, commercial, syndications, land, precious metals, cryptocurrency, invest in private businesses or startup businesses, tax lien certificates, promissory notes secured by real estate, private stock, and specifically what we're talking about today, which is mineral rights, you can do that inside of an IRA. You just have to use a company like Directed IRA that will buy the investment for you on behalf of your IRA and hold it in your IRA. Now, the reason you can't do that at Fidelity is Fidelity doesn't sell mineral rights. They don't sell real estate. So if you ask them, hey, I want to use my Fidelity IRA to buy a piece of real estate or invest in mineral rights, they're going to tell you, no, you can't do that. It doesn't mean you can't, it doesn't mean no, you can't do that by law. It means no, you can't do that with them. When you have an IRA with Directed IRA, our account agreement with you as a client simply reads, we'll be your IRA custodian or your 401k custodian or your HSA custodian, but you have to tell us what the investment is. We have no investments to sell you. And when we have an open-ended agreement like that, we'll hold anything the IRS allows. But you have to tell us what that investment is. That's where the self-directed and self-directed IRA comes in. But at the end of the day, we just hold IRAs just like Fidelity or Charles Schwab. We just hold different assets inside of those IRAs. So at this point in the program, I want to bring on Derrek. Derrek, if you want to jump on, I want background about how me and Derrek know each other. Me and Derrek actually go way back. I don't know how far back, but it's pretty far back. And I don't know what he's doing here. Uh, but me and Derrek actually worked at the same company doing self-directed IRAs. Derrek actually even worked for me. He was my number one sales guy when he was working under me. So I had the opportunity to train Derrek, and I actually was trained by his family as well about how self-directed IRAs work. So not only is Derrek an expert in mineral rights specifically, working with Eckert as a senior wealth manager, but he's also pretty much an expert in self-directed IRAs. So you've got kind of a killer combo here with Derrek, and you've also got us at Directed IRA who consider ourselves the experts in the field. So you've got a lot of expertise here. We're going to talk specifically about investing in alts, specifically mineral rights. So Derrek, I'm going to unshare my screen, let you introduce yourself and share your screen. And remember, guys, if you have any questions, type them into the Q&A box. We'll get to those questions as we can and continue to network in the chat. But Derrek, go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and share your screen if you can.
Yeah, so thanks, Nate, so much for the introduction. And Nate's absolutely correct. We used to work with another institution, and we learned a lot from there. I already see questions in the Q&A box, and I know exactly how to answer those, so keep them coming. We'll get to those right near the end of it. And Mike, I saw your message in the chat box. Mike lives in Alaska, and it was funny because he lives near where I actually grew up. So if you ever have a chance to go to Alaska, you guys should. With that being said, I am going to talk today a lot about mineral rights, and I want you guys to understand this. I work for Eckert Enterprises, and as Nate said, a lot of people like to think of me as an expert in mineral rights, but a lot of my expertise comes down to me being the investor. I have not worked in the oil and gas field for decades or anything like that. If anything, my real background comes in that self-directed field, right? And we're really going to label as a tax deferment strategy or a post-tax or tax-free strategy with a lot of investments. And with a different institution that I used to work with, our number one investment started being mineral rights. And I thought it was really weird because we had all sorts of other investments in real estate, from especially a lot of syndications, apartment complex, storage units. I mean, you can name it, from senior living facilities and hotels to even some of the more easier investments like notes, buying notes, selling notes, lending money. And occasionally you'd see the single family home come through. And then out of nowhere, mineral rights started to explode. And I didn't understand why, but the more research and the more due diligence we did on it, the more I was attracted to it. So as an individual, I started actually investing a lot of my own funds with it and have had great success with that since then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off, and we're going to see, Nate, you should be able to see my screen, right? I think so. So what I did is I called this just buying mineral rights using a self-directed IRA. And we're going to kind of go through what it looks like, define more importantly what a mineral right is, because I think that's also important. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't know what it is. I know I didn't when I first started. Quick disclaimer is this is strictly for educational purposes. I know directed IRA always says this as well, but you have to understand that I can't give you tax advice. I can't give you any type of legal advice, especially in this setting. You know, this is a recorded webinar strictly for education. So I do work for Eckerd Enterprises, but everything we're going to be talking about today, you can relate to any oil and gas style type company or energy type company. So we're going to kind of cover all aspects of it. So just take that as it is. Now we have all sorts of different real estate asset choices. You know, and I think most of us are familiar with the things like the single family homes, the commercial, any of those short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBOs, right? Or one of those syndications, storage units, multifamily. But then there's mineral rights. And a lot of times we don't know what mineral rights actually are. So we're going to kind of take a minute to define it just real fast. Believe it or not, mineral rights is labeled as real property. It is deeded and entitled to you, the individual, just like a single family home. So if I went out and bought a single family home, I have a contract, I work with a title company, I work with an agent, right? And then at the end of it, I actually can have a bunch of paperwork and due diligence on what my asset is. That is the same thing as a mineral right. When you're looking to buy mineral rights, typically, especially if you're going to work with certain companies, you buy them by the acre. So I'm buying an acre. Now it's not on the surface. That acre is under the ground. And I think that's really important to distinguish, because when we think of buying an acre of land, your acre of land, you can walk on it. You own it, right? And you can physically see it. Whereas minerals, it's going to be 1,000 feet under the ground, all the way to the core of the earth. So it's deep down under the ground. It's underneath a single property. Knowing that, you have zero expenses, zero capital calls. And what I mean by zero expenses, first off, is there's no property taxes if you own the right mineral rights. I don't have to pay any type of property tax because there's nothing that the city themselves or the state themselves have to maintain. I don't have to carry things like insurance. Why? Because there is nothing to insure. This means I also don't have any type of liability risk to me. I, as an individual, am not going to be liable if something happens on my mineral rights. That's either going to be passed on to the oil company that's doing drilling or somebody else. It's not you, the mineral right owner. This also means that I don't have a capital call. I think that's really important, especially in today's day and age, because a lot of investments out there are capital calls when the deal goes wrong. This doesn't happen with a mineral right because overall, once you own it, you own an acre. You don't have to supply any more cash ever to this type of investment. Because of that, if you buy the correct mineral rights, it is considered passive income. I only look for mineral rights that are income producing today. I don't invest into funds, right? Because we can buy mineral rights through a fund and those type of things. No, I want to be the direct owner. I want to buy it, and before I buy it, I want to know it's coming with a contract with oil and gas companies. I want to know those oil and gas companies signed a lease saying they're going to pay me for the next 25 plus years. Those are the mineral rights you want. And we can go ahead and start to distinguish where those mineral rights actually are. And there's considered oil and gas basins throughout the US, which is really where you should be looking. In addition, because you're buying them directly, you can't buy them with debt. Someone can't raise capital, 20, 30% of the capital, and then borrow the other 70 or 80% from the bank. Doesn't work that way. You have to buy them in cash. Because you're buying them in cash, you're at the top of the food chain. Think about that for a minute. In a syndication, when you're investing into an apartment complex, a storage unit, or if you're even buying a single family home and you're renting it out and you borrow money from the bank to accomplish the deal, the first person to get paid is not you. The first person to get paid is the bank. Well, mineral rights, since they're not debt leveraged, you are at the top of the food chain. You get paid first. I strictly look for mineral rights with a lot of oil and gas reserves. And I think this is unique because if we look across the US, I'm going to use the state of Florida as an example. You can buy mineral rights in Florida for $1 to $2 an acre. That's not an exaggeration. But it's because there is no oil or gas reserves there that we know of that people are mining for, drilling for, anything along those lines. So when I'm looking for it, I want to know that there's a deep reservoir of oil and gas. Why? Because that's why those oil and gas companies signed a lease with you, the mineral owner, saying we are going to rent your minerals and we're going to pay you every single month. Once again, I can't stress the zero liability. And I think this is a little confusing, and it's because of how we've been taught through the last 10 years to invest in oil and gas. If you've ever tried to do it, you probably have never invested in mineral rights directly. What you've done is you invested in something called the working interest. Right? That is not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about mineral rights. So what is working interest? Working interest is very high risk, but very high reward. There's a lot of upfront cost. What ends up happening is when you're investing in working is you're investing in someone drilling for oil. This guy is going out, they're going to drill for oil, and if they strike oil, you get paid. If they don't, you lose every dollar you invested. So you take the risk, you take the reward. With this, though, you also get large tax deductions if you invest on the drilling side. Typically 70 or 80% of what you invest can be deducted from your adjusted gross income. This is super important because I don't think you should ever use a self-directed IRA to invest in working interests. Why? Because not only is it high risk, but the IRA cannot take the tax deduction. So you usually want to use some sort of taxable entity, you yourself, a single member LLC, right? Or a C Corp, an S Corp, something like that, that is able to take the tax deduction. Now, ultimately, it's your money. If you want to use an IRA and invest in working interest, most people will let you. Most industries out there that have oil and gas investments, they don't mind if you want to use an IRA. Why? Because it is a self-directed account. You choose your investments, but you're giving up a big reason for it, and you're playing a high-risk game with one of the most powerful investment tools, that IRA, that is either tax deferred or in the right accounts like a Roth or an HSA is completely tax-free. This is the most common way to invest in in oil and gas is through working interest. It's drilling. The problem, there are some big capital calls, and the oil companies count on this. On average, if a capital call comes up, you're going to see between a low end 3% on a high end 10% of what you invested. And the way most deals are structured, you have 2 weeks to 30 days, somewhere between there, to provide your capital call. And if you don't, you lose your interest in the deal. It goes straight to the oil and gas company themselves, and they count on this. Eckerd Enterprises does drilling. We do mineral rights as well, but you want to understand that if you're going to invest in someone drilling, you want to keep enough cash aside for the capital calls when they come, and they will eventually. There's no way to avoid it. Every drilling project out there will eventually, at some point in time, have a capital call. So keep enough cash on the sideline for that reason. Mineral rights, though, very low risk. They're so low risk that the IRS does not allow any type of tax deductions for them. This is why it's the perfect vehicle for a self-directed IRA. There is nothing to claim from a deduction standpoint. There is no depreciation for you to offset anything. There's no debt leverage on them, so there's no things like UBIT, UDFI. If you don't know what I'm saying, don't worry about it. Right? But And it is a real ownership. It is a real asset. It's hard. It's tangible. You have a warranty deed, a title, all to yourself. No capital calls. And the biggest thing I think for it is a monthly check. If you buy the correct mineral rights, from the day you buy them, you start receiving monthly checks. That is the most important thing. Why? Because if I invest 100 grand into something and 30 days later I get $1,000, I only need 99,000 more to go ahead and break even. And that is so important because a lot of times we do investments, we do deals, and we're not even looking to figure out, okay, how can I get my capital back? You just looked at the end result. But if the end result isn't a perfect result for you, you could lose everything. So I like to see, and I like investments where I get a monthly pay. As a matter of fact, me and Nate used to do a lot of notes. I think me and Nate have even partnered our IRAs together on some notes. Why? Because we like to see those monthly checks come in. So pros and cons real quick to mineral rights. Real ownership, monthly checks, no capital calls, no liability, and a tenant on there for 25 years. Imagine if you could buy a rental property and your tenant right there signed a 25-year lease with you. There you go. And these leases come from some of the largest oil and gas companies out there: Exxon, BP, Chevron, Devon, right? These are big, big companies, Pioneer. They're the ones that are signing the leases. What are the cons, though? You have to and expect to hold it for, I'd say, at least 5 years. Why? I want to see someone, if they're going to hold it, to go ahead and at least get their capital return back from their investment. Right. In addition, if you do need to exit, it's going to take you about 60 days. Why? It's not like owning an Apple stock where tomorrow you can turn around and sell it and you leave. It is, you own it by the acre. And on average, as long as you're not sitting there trying to flip it and overcharge, if you're charging what I'm going to label as the fair market value rate, it takes about 60 days for mineral rights to sale. It's pretty normal. All this being said, you still have no clue what a mineral right is. It's kind of funny. I go through all this and you're like, all right, Derek, you keep saying it's real ownership. I get a monthly check, but I still don't know what I own. So what does a mineral right actually look like? And I think a lot of people think it looks like the picture you see there on the screen. Those are pump jacks. Those are out there. They're pumping out oil. That's someone who invested in working interests. That picture is someone who invested in the drilling. That is not what I am talking about when I mention mineral rights. So what do mineral rights actually look like? They look a lot more like this if you're purchasing the correct ones. What should happen before you do anything is you should receive an income packet. It'll look like this. And on this packet, it will say something like, hey, before you buy an acre, you have 39 producing wells in your sections. 39 wells that are already today pumping out oil. And they should give you what's called an API number to those wells. If they don't give you the API number, you should be a little skeptical about it. Some people won't. But make sure you ask for those. Like, all right, so you say these 39 wells are pumping out oil today. Can you prove it? Yes, we can. You go right to the state website and you can see how much they're pulling out. In addition, though, you'll typically have something like this. And this is there's 8 wells that are drilled, but they're uncompleted. Why is that important? Is because these are wells that the oil companies have already started to drill for oil, but they haven't turned them on yet. So this shows that we have future income coming. And there's even investments out there where there's wells that are in a permit status, where those same oil and gas companies have applied for permits at the state level. This shows that we have income not only today, but income for literally generations. And this is why people like to own them. It's because once you own a mineral right, you own it in perpetuity. You can pass it on to your heirs. And remember, it is a monthly income check that is coming to you. And if you're doing it in a self-directed IRA, you can truly have this be 100% tax-free in things like a Roth IRA, HSA, Coverdell accounts, etc. Now, I make them sound really attractive, but there's a big con. It's right here. There's only 500 acres of this specific aspect available. And I want to say this one was selling, this was all the way back November. This was the last mineral package that I personally purchased. This was selling for about $12,000 an acre. That's it. It's pretty cheap. It really is. So at $12,000 an acre, this is about a $6 million package. There's several people out there that would drop $3, $4, $5 million at a time, and then there is nothing left. This isn't a fund. People a lot of times are looking to put their money into LPs, funds, something like that, and because they feel that like, hey, I get investments instantly, but you don't really own anything, and that's a problem with me. I like to know that I own something that is titled and deeded, something I can, okay, I actually have a piece of paper that says I own XYZ. So when you buy these by the acre, you are the owner. And once they're gone, they're gone. Many times you have to be put on a buyer's list and wait for other investments to become available. So remember that. If you're looking to buy mineral rights, I argue not to put your money in a fund, but buy them by the acre. Make sure you're the real owner. There's a lot of other advantages that come with mineral right ownership. And these are things, honestly, like no UBIT UDFI. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But it just comes down to the IRA is not borrowing debt. Right? You get a monthly check. And I stress this one so much because when I worked at a self-directed IRA custodian, one of the number one things I saw is people would do investments. And instead of receiving cash back, they just kept letting it roll in and roll out and roll out. Oh, no, you don't have to pay me. Keep it in that way, have more money invested with you. And then the deal will go sideways. Oh, I'm doing this investment and there's an exit strategy at the end of 5 years. But during that 5-year window, you don't receive any income. I love to see I get a monthly check that's consistently coming in. And remember, that check's coming in for 25 plus years. The ability to liquidate. This is so important for a lot of people, especially as we get older, because a lot of us, as we get older, we have RMDs. If I have a traditional IRA, a 401k, a SEP IRA, I'm forced to pull out money when I hit a certain age. As of today, it's 73. In 2030, it will be 75. The IRS has already increased it, or Congress has already increased it. So knowing that, if I am forced to pull out cash and I don't have the cash available, I can pull out a mineral right. We can value a mineral by the acre, and you can move the acre directly in your name. It takes about 24 hours. This counts as your RMD, and now you have cash flow coming to you directly. The last thing is a discounted Roth conversion. A lot of investments we do out there, if we do them in a tax-deferred account first, we can then do a Roth conversion at a later date at discounted rates. I know Directed IRA teaches a whole class on the Roth conversion side, and there's a lot of investments out there. So if you haven't ever signed up for it, I guarantee you Nate has some sort of podcast or webinar on there. I know he does 100%. So notice there's a lot of advantages to using an IRA, from the UBIT, the monthly checks, the ability to liquidate, easy for your RMDs, and discounted Roth conversions.
Hey,
I
Derek,
truly think
if you don't mind, let's take a couple questions because I got some questions. And if you could go back to the map real quick, Chauncey
yeah.
just had a question. The blue dots, were those wells on the maps?
Let's see.
You want to pull that map up again?
Boop. Boop.
Yeah, just go back 2 slides.
Bam. So the blue dots, if you zoom in on them, yes, there are wells there. Those are the acres that you're buying, okay? So if you zoom way in on them, you'll see that like between all of these, that is your 47 wells that you have. That's a great question.
And then Chauncey has another question: is how do we start researching for minerals? Would they just go to your website and search for available mineral packages there, or how's the best way for them to get that information?
Yeah, so I mean that's one option is you can scan the QR code, you can text the phone number on the screen, you can send an email. As of today, I don't know if there's any available, at least with Eckerd. Now you can search around to other companies as well. We are the only company that sells them by the acre. Everyone else has to invest into a fund, right? Which isn't bad, but I mean, I'm always going to be more open to the direct ownership. So, but yep, you can send an email, scan the QR code, send a text, whatever you'd like. If you want to just, I tell people be put on a buyer's list next time there's funds available. All right. So there's not always going to be mineral rights available. A lot of times people are looking for something that they can do today. And when you're trying to rush and get into an investment, that's when you make bad decisions.
Awesome. Now I know you guys work with a purchase sale agreement, and
Mhm.
that probably dictates, what the IRA owns as far as mineral rights. But is another word for that division orders? We've got a question, and I'll just read it. It says, how long should it take for your purchase of a mineral right for the division orders to be sent to directed IRA or the custodian? And let me, I'll let you answer that question, and I'll take the second part.
Sure, sure. So that's actually it should be sent to directed IRA instantly. Okay, that's part of it's as if you're buying a house. Directed IRA would not be able to send the funds until that division order is sent, and that's very similar yep to the PSA. That
Right.
being said, normally it takes about 6 months before you get your first check from a mineral right. However, it doesn't mean you weren't paid during that 6 months. What happens is the state has to recognize you, aka in this case, your IRA, as the new mineral owner. Not only does the state, but so does the oil company. So this process can take in between 3 to 6 months, but the oil company still has to pay somebody. So pretty much your money sits in an escrow account at the state level. Once you're recognized as that mineral owner, bam, it is all released. And I tell people don't get super excited because your first check is going to be the largest one, right? But it's because it could be up to 6 months worth of checks all at once, you know? So you're still getting paid during that time frame. Once that first check is released, now you're recognized as the mineral owner, and now you'll receive a monthly check moving forward, pretty much in perpetuity.
Okay. Got a couple other questions. Daniel Marker says, explain the fractional ownership that Eckerd does. Explain the
Sure.
fractional ownership that Eckerd does.
So when we look at this map right here, this 500 acres, the reason it's labeled as fractional ownership is because of horizontal drilling. Is no longer are people drilling straight down for oil, right? They're drilling down and they go sideways. So whether you own acre 1 or acre 500, everyone receives the same royalty percentage. It doesn't matter. So at the state level, it is labeled as a fractional ownership because of that. Notice, right? If I only own acre here, right where can you see my mouse? Okay, yeah. Well, then I can only get paid off this section. But that wouldn't be fair that this guy over here is drilling for oil and he's sucking it out over here because they don't drill straight down. Remember, they drill down and they turn sideways nowadays. So this is why you always are going to have these fractional ownership. And the legal term for it is called pooling. So they pool all these acres together, and it doesn't matter which acre you own, you all receive the same royalty percentage. Great question.
Great question. Okay, so another one from Chauncey, missed this one. Capital calls, are those additional funds required to secure equitable interest?
So remember, mineral rights do not have capital
Right, they
calls,
don't have capital
but
call. It's a good thing.
in working interest, if you're investing in drilling, absolutely. So what happens is a contractor says, "Hey, we're going to charge $10 million to drill a well," and the drill head breaks. The drill head's $500,000. Well, now another $500,000 has to be generated from you. So now you're not going to be stuck with that whole amount, whatever percentage that is, right? Boom, that's how much you're going to give. And that example is about $500 would be your capital call. So notice when we get a quote from a contractor, and it's called an AFE, right? And oil and gas is what they call it. But bam, now you're going to have to supply more cash. This does not give you more ownership at all in the project. This is why you're stuck with it. And here's where people mess up. Someone says, man, I have $1 million tax problem. So I'm going to invest $1 million in drilling. This way it offsets all my taxes. A 2 or 3% capital call comes into play. That's $30,000 you have to come up with right now. If you can't, the oil and gas company gets to inherit your $1 million position. You lose it 100%. Why? Because they're going to cover your 30 grand. And it's equivalent to them as if they just invested $1 million, but they didn't. And this happens all the time. This is why I can't stress enough. If you're going to invest in drilling, don't invest every penny you have. Keep some money aside for those capital calls because they will come. When? I'm not sure, but they will come. And that doesn't matter who you're with.
Perfect.
So.
Robert, I see your question, but I'm going to hold off on that until I do a couple slides because we'll circle back on that. But Robert asked, and this was good because we had just kind of cut off when we started talking about this, but what's the justification and basis for a discounted Roth conversion? What's the timing for this conversion? I'll let you answer here, Derek, but with certain investments, Robert, there's certain circumstances where you could have a third party valuation, okay, from a qualified valuator come in and actually report that the investment is less than what the principal balance was over a certain amount of time. Now, there's some certain criteria that investment has to follow. I'll let Derrek talk about that. I believe some of it is loss of control, the type of entity it might be in. So you do have to, it's not a valuation you would give as the client, but it's an evaluation you would have to hire out for. There's third-party evaluators that can come in and say, based on the circumstances of this investment and this mineral right, this is the value that we foresee it as today. I'll let you kind of expand on that, Derrek.
Yeah, and Nate nailed it. So, and this holds true for almost every asset. When you use your IRA to invest in mineral rights, right, you're typically buying them based off of a value later on down the road. When I showed you that screen just a minute ago, and it had all the wells, right, that were producing oil today, wells that were in a DUC status, meaning they're drilled but they haven't been turned on, and wells that were permitted at the state level. Well, certain appraisers will come in and they're going to ignore the wells that are in a permit and wells that are in that DUC status. They're only going to look at the producing wells. Because of that, they can usually evaluate it at just that price, not the future price. Therefore, it gives you a discount. In addition, the IRS has mineral rights as a non-liquidatable asset. This also gives you an additional 15% deduction from those type of things. Now, this holds true though for any type of asset out there. You've always been able to do this. You probably just didn't realize it. I had a client a long time ago. They were doing a fix and flip. They bought a house for 100,000 as an example, and they're going to sell it for 200. But when they bought it for 100,000, they went in and they had their contractor rip out the bathroom, rip out the floors. They said, stop everything you're doing. And they're like, what, why? He goes, we have an appraiser coming in to appraise the house. Appraiser came in and they said, oh, this house doesn't even have a bathroom or a floor. It's no longer worth 100. It's worth 60,000. Well, notice you paid an appraiser to do this. And this is pretty much what's happening with mineral rights is you're paying an appraiser, someone that's a third party, not your IRA custodian, not Eckerd, not yourself, right? Someone with a physical license to discount it. Now, was the value of the house in the story really only worth the 60,000? No, he had contractors on standby to build it up. And this is very, very normal. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and it also helps, if you've got a large, amount of money in a traditional IRA and you're looking, for the best, way to utilize that, and mineral rights seems to be, fit for your investment strategy. Yeah, the traditional IRA actually, in some cases, you can argue is a better account to use than going in straight with a Roth IRA if you have an asset that can be valued less and you can basically convert at a discount. So that's a huge opportunity. But again, like Derrek said, we don't do that valuation. Eckerd doesn't even do that valuation. You got to find a third party that will come in and value that asset, but it could be very advantageous to you guys. Couple other questions. Actually, let me do some slides, Derrek, if you don't mind. Just give your information again, real quick. Bring up your information slide so people know how to get a hold of you, and then we're going to still take some questions. We still got about 20 minutes, so we're not done yet, guys. And I appreciate all the great questions that are coming in. So if you guys have information, there's how you get a hold of Derrek. You can text mineral to that phone number, and his email is dlong@eckerdenterprises.com, and I will tell you he's very, very fast at getting back to you. So let me share my slides again and just kind of wrap it up. Again, this is a little bit for the new people as well, because I know some people are probably thinking like, what are all these questions coming in? Because I don't even have a self-directed IRA. Talk to me.
If you don't have one, you guys need one.
Yeah, so if you don't have one, let's do that real quick. Derrek. Okay, I think you guys can see that. So there's different types of accounts that you can use to invest in mineral rights, alternative assets, real estate, notes, and you'll probably see these are the same types of accounts you would have at Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Wells Fargo Advisors. We just call it self-directed because you have to tell us what you want in those accounts. But we have 6 different types of tax-exempt accounts that you can use to invest in alts. You've got your personal plans, which are your traditional and your Roth. Obviously, most of those traditional IRAs come from your old 401ks. It might be called a rollover IRA where it's at. But those pre-tax and after-tax IRAs can all be invested into alts, mineral rights, and so forth. If you're self-employed, you have an additional page on the menu. You can self-direct a SEP IRA or the mighty 401k, the solo 401k. If you're a business owner with no employees, no W-2 employees, that is probably the greatest wealth building vehicle on the planet when it comes to self-direction. We do a lot of education on those, but basically you can self-direct not only your personal plans, but employer plans as well, and have a lot more control over them. And you can also self-direct not even just retirement plans, but health savings accounts. Blows my mind how many people have a health savings account from an old employer or a current employer that don't even know they can invest it. It's just sitting in cash at Bank of America. I already see you jumping through the my screen here, Derek. What do you want to say about the HSA?
I actually think it's funny because I would say that's probably one of the most powerful investment tools out there, and
Oh yeah.
almost no one utilizes it. It's crazy. So I
Well,
was just gonna make a comment.
they utilize it for the tax advantage one, which is you make a contribution to a health savings account, you get a tax deduction. That's one of three benefits you get with it with an HSA. If you qualify for an HSA, you have to have a high deductible health plan, first of all. But if you've got one, you know how this works. The contributions are tax deductible, dollar for dollar. You invest in HSA, the HSA pays no taxes on the growth. And then you take money out of the HSA to pay for qualified health expenses. It comes out tax free. It's like a traditional IRA going in and a Roth IRA coming out, and you don't have to wait for 59 and a half to do this. All you have to do is take the money out to pay for qualified health expenses, which is so broad, it's crazy. It's health expenses for you, your spouse, any of your dependents. Is basically almost anything that your health insurance doesn't cover. On any of my self-directed investments, I always have my Roth and my HSA together because those are two accounts that work completely different, but they both work completely tax-free. And then you can also self-direct Coverdell Education Savings Accounts. Now, if you haven't set these up for your kids or your grandkids, and they're under the age of 18, if you want to invest and help invest in, say, mineral rights and have some of these distributions help pay for your kids or grandkids' education expenses, you can do that with a self-directed ESA or a self-directed Coverdell Education Savings Account. Again, most people know what the 529 plan is. 529 plans are great, but they're government sponsored. You don't get to pick the investments. The Coverdell Education Savings Account, you get to self-direct, you get to pick the investments, and the distributions out of an ESA can be used to pay for pretty much any qualified education expense from pre-K to college, even trade school. And we're talking things like tuition if they're going to private school, if they're not going to private school, computers, books, tutoring, iPads, even your home internet bill. If you guys got internet in the home, that's a qualified education expense. You could be paying your internet bill monthly with tax-free distributions from your son or daughter's ESA account. It's so powerful. It's ridiculous. But when you self-direct these plans, think about when you get your benefit and how you want to use your benefit. Think about how you can take some of these distributions and pay for retirement, healthcare, and education expenses and just use the right accounts. I'm a big fan of the Roth IRA. I'm a big fan of traditional to Roth conversions. I'm a big fan of the HSA and the ESA because at the end of the day, those are the accounts, the Roth, the HSA, and the ESA, and the Roth 401k are really the only accounts that you can get Uncle Sam off your back forever. You can live tax-free and pay for current expenses that you have to pay for anyways with tax-free dollars. Now, I want Derek to add a little fluff on this too, because one of the things that I've seen with a lot of the investors that come in, and not just accurate investors, but investors that are investing in syndications and things like that, they might not quite meet the investment minimum that the investment sponsor is asking. And especially when you're talking about HSAs and ESAs and even some Roth IRAs, some people might not have 50 grand in each of those accounts. So we do have a solution for our clients where we've got our sister company, KKOS Lawyers, which is right upstairs. We set hundreds of these up a year for clients that are looking to partner plans together Okay. And maybe they're partnering plans together because they need to meet an investment minimum. I just had a client do this with Eckerd that didn't meet the $50,000 investment minimum, but together with their Roth IRA, their wife's Roth IRA, they had 3 kids that they had Coverdale set up for and an HSA. They put all those into what we call a multi-member IRA owned LLC. This is all this is, guys. It's an LLC that's owned by your IRAs. Okay, we walk you from A to Z if you're looking to fund this. Now, as a reminder, this is not a requirement in order to invest your IRA into alternative assets, but it's a structure that you can use that gives you, the IRA owner, true checkbook control by being the manager of the LLC that's owned by your IRAs and other plans. It can save you a lot of time in getting investments funded. You don't have to work investments through us. Basically, the only investment we have on our books is that your IRAs and 401ks or HSAs all own this LLC. What happens with the LLC is now your responsibility. You've got access to the checkbook. You send the wires. You sign the purchase agreements. Whatever it is, you're doing it in the name of the LLC. So you could save a lot of time, a lot of energy, and sometimes it's a necessary solution to a problem of maybe you just don't meet the account minimums. Okay. Maybe you don't meet the account minimums by partnering all your plans together. Now you've got enough money in an LLC. Derek, go ahead.
No, finish up. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I've been answering questions for you guys as you've been talking, which I saw you were doing for me, which is kind of funny. That just shows how long we've known each other.
All right. So yeah, so again, this is just a solution for you guys. And again, at the end of the day, it's less paperwork. I had a client, and again, I'm just giving you guys scenarios so you understand. I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just trying to tell you this is a solution to a lot of problems. And I had one client setting up 12 different IRAs. I mean, they had a traditional and a Roth for themselves, a traditional Roth for their spouse. They had 4 kids. They had an HSA. They had a bunch of different accounts. And even though they didn't necessarily need to meet the account minimums, they were going to invest all those accounts in multiple deals. They were very active. They wanted to do like 3 or 4 investments a year. You got to fill out, 12 different direction investment forms every single time you want to do one investment. So for them, they said, let's just do this once. Let me just fill out the investment documents that Directed IRA needs, right? Let KKOS lawyers set up the LLC. And then I'm just going to fund and title all the future investments in the name of this LLC, and I don't have to work with Directed IRA. Now, I will tell you, you've got to be responsible if you have this kind of structure. You're not allowed to take this checkbook and go, fund your trips to Vegas. It has to be IRA or HSA or whatever the plans that own the LLC. It has to benefit those plans. It has to be for investments. But again, it could save you a lot of trouble, especially the more accounts you have and the more investments you want to do. It can be very easy to set that up. Again, not a requirement, but very easy. And if you guys want more information about just Directed IRA and the plans that we offer, the structures that we offer, you guys can just go to directedira.com. We've got a lot of education there, a lot of information there. You can also book a call with myself or any of our IRA executives. If you want to book a call with me or somebody on my team, you can just scan that code. And we're going to get back to questions here. I'm not done with questions, but I want to tell people, if you have not set up an IRA, okay, we'll give you $100 discount. Okay, if you any IRA, Roth, traditional, solo 401k, whatever it is, just make sure you use that code webinar 100, and we'll give you a $100 discount on your first year fee on all your accounts. So if you're setting up 4 accounts, it's a $400 savings just by using that. So again, scan that code.
Give me
You guys
those
want to
deals
book
when
a
I'm on
call?
the quest.
Scan that code if you want to book a call with me or my team, or you can email me if you have questions for me, nate.hare@directedira.com. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then we're going to take some more questions, Derek.
So I just want to read the question. I
Sure.
know the answer, right? But if I have a self-directed health savings account, how do I purchase assets if the money can only be used for qualified expenses?
Okay, so yeah, purchasing assets is different. So when you have an IRA or an HSA, okay, that can be invested in stocks. You could buy stocks, you could buy mutual funds, you could buy ETFs, or you can buy mineral rights. Let's just use that as an example. Okay. Anytime you buy an investment, your IRA custodian has to buy it on your behalf. Okay. So Fidelity, Charles Schwab, they buy the stocks when you press buy Walmart stock. when we're going to buy a mineral right with an HSA or an IRA, okay, you're gonna not push a button, but you're going to give us a form. It's called our direction of investment form. Okay, you find them online, but that's you, the client, saying, "Hey, directed IRA, I want $50,000 from my HSA to invest in this mineral right package." And with that form, we're always going to want that, in this case, the purchase sale agreement that Eckert has between your IRA and them. That's going to show what the IRA is actually going to own. Okay. Now, what we do with that form and that agreement is we're going to send the money straight to Eckert. Okay. And that investment is going to be held on our books here as an IRA or an HSA investment. So you're not using the money as a distribution, you're just making an investment. Now, when the income comes into your HSA, at that point, you can decide, I want to take a distribution from my HSA and I'm using it to pay for a qualified expense. Therefore, I don't have to pay taxes. All you have to do with us is just fill out that distribution form. Now, I will tell you this, guys, there's a cool trick with an HSA that most people don't realize, which I think, again, not giving investment advice, but I think this is the better way to use an HSA. Is if you've got income coming into your HSA, okay, I almost think it's better to reinvest the income. Don't take the money out as a distribution, because as long as you have an HSA in place and the high deductible health plan, you can pay yourself back for the expenses you pay. Okay. I can just pay it out of my pocket, save all the receipts. And why would I do that instead of nickel and diming my HSA? Well, when you take money out of your HSA to pay every expense, you're just limiting the investment capital in your HSA. There's no time frame as how long you can go in the future to reimburse yourself. So let's say you've got an HSA for the next 10 years, okay? And you've got 10 years of medical expenses. If I can just retain the capital in my HSA and continue to compound the interest, reinvest it, my HSA is going to grow bigger, faster, longer, okay? And meanwhile, I'll just pay everything out of my pocket. And 10 years later, for example, I take a $20,000 distribution tax-free and penalty-free to pay myself for every receipt I have in that drawer. It's one of the greatest things you can do. I've had clients go to Europe, have trips to Europe in retirement by taking a tax-free, penalty-free distribution out of an HSA to pay themselves back for all the medical expenses that they had to pay out of pocket. So yes, that's how that works. Investments different, distributions you take from us and you just fill out a distribution form for that.
Sorry, I got excited because I was like,
Yeah.
So
This
I
is
got a lot
the-
of questions on there, Nate, about ROIs, and I want to stress to everybody that when I'm speaking about mineral rights in this setting, we're talking about mineral rights in general. Okay, we're not talking about Eckert as a company. So when you're looking for the ROI side, right, you have to understand that I have to give kind of two different answers, right? But if I always tell people your mineral rights are not your sexy investment. Do not expect to make your 20, 30, 40% type of rate returns. On the low end, I usually see about a 6%. And on the high end, you'll see maybe a 12 or 13% on an annual basis. So any company should be able to give you a cash flow model, what is to expect over 5 years, which is what we do with Eckert, right? And on our cash flow models, like you'll see right at the bottom, exactly what it shows. But this whole topic was not about pitching investments or anything like that. So when we're looking through any type of mineral right out there, it's going to be based off of multiple things. First off is commodity prices. So when you look at someone's cash flow model, okay, if I buy this mineral, how much can I expect to get? Understand that it's based off the price of oil and gas. If I went and pumped gas today or pumped gas tomorrow, the price changed, right? So it's fluctuating like this. It really is. So make sure you take that into consideration. In addition, take into consideration the location, right? Notice I said earlier on, you can buy mineral rights in Florida. They're $2 an acre, right? So notice you're looking kind of where to buy. But if you're buying the right mineral rights, on the low end, it should be about a 6%. And on the high end, and I'm talking on the high end, you're talking 12%, all right? Somewhere in between there. This is not your, oh, look at all the money I made. No, this is more the most boring investment you're ever going to do. But what's nice is it's safe, it's cheap, it's easy to get into, and you never lose your principal. And we base this strictly off of your mineral rights. Once you own, if you own the proper ones, they have never gone down in value. Not once since 1970. Mineral rights have never decreased.
And
So
that's helpful. I'll just say this, most of the, people that I follow and have a lot of respect for, none of them actually say you get rich fast. Everybody is, you get rich slow. Obviously, there's investments, you might hit a home run here or there. But mineral rights, even real estate, even notes, me and Derek have done notes together. I do a lot of notes. Those are just investments that are base hits and doubles. You hit a lot of base hits and doubles, you still score runs. You don't got to hit a home run every single time. And I think diversifying your asset, even if it's your retirement portfolio, diversifying into some hard, tangible assets, whether it's real estate on top of the ground or under the ground, is something anybody should really look at, regardless of how much you know about real estate. Because real estate at the end of the day, and land specifically, is not going anywhere. It's the largest asset class on the planet. And again, I'm not trying to give you guys investment advice, but if you're not invested, in my mind, into some piece of real estate in some way, you're missing the boat if you're just invested in stocks and bonds and publicly traded companies. So it's just powerful just knowing you have the option, knowing you have the option to discount, do Roth conversions at a discount. I mean, that's powerful. You don't get that in many investment arenas. And just the understanding of the income that comes in, because when you were talking about income earlier, one of the things that's powerful for people, especially when they get to retirement, is they want that income stream. You don't want to have to be selling stocks and selling mutual funds to live off your retirement. Sometimes it's nice to have some assets that are cash flowing, whether it's a rental property, a note, mineral rights that are paying you monthly distributions that you can live off to take RMDs, or hopefully you've got it converted to a Roth where you don't have to worry about RMDs. You're just taking the money out tax-free to live.
it's crazy that our number one investor is usually going to be older individuals. And it's because mineral rights is the easy legacy play. As an example, if you put in and you're leaving behind $1 million to somebody, a lot of people, if you just put that in their bank account, they're going to spend it. And not purposely, even smart people, they're going to spend it. Whereas I gave them $1 million in a cash flowing asset that will pay them for 25 to 50 years, that is life changing. It really is, because, and I joke, I always say it's a way to control money from the grave, but it's really a way to secure not only your future, but your family's future as well. And that's why mineral rights have always been passed down from generation to generation to generation. So,
well, we've had a lot of good questions. We're coming up at the top of the hour. Derek, let's see. How do I get mineral rights out of the IRA to pass down? No, so I think you just kind of touched on that. So we'll kind of end on that. When you pass away, any assets held in your IRA, whether it's a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA, those assets don't do anything other than transfer to an inherited IRA. The inherited IRA, whether it's an inherited traditional or inherited Roth, are going to go to whoever are the beneficiaries on your account. Okay, so make sure one of the things I always tell our clients is make sure your beneficiary form is up to date, right? If you've remarried or and you haven't changed your beneficiary form, you better go change your beneficiary form with your friendly custodian to make sure if you die tomorrow, you got the assets going to the right people. But the cool thing, especially with a Roth IRA, one of the greatest things you can give or as a legacy to your next generation is an inherited Roth IRA, an inherited Roth IRA that has hard, tangible assets that cash flow. Because if you inherit a Roth IRA, you can live 10 years at a minimum tax-free off the distributions of that inherited Roth IRA. You could even, as the person that inherits it, reinvest in inherited Roth IRA. You can continue to make it grow. It just has to be distributed over 10 years, but it's a tax-free bucket that you're giving to your kids or your grandkids that'll never be taxed again, that they can continue to reinvest. So
when you were a professional baseball player, did you ever think, by the way, for those that don't know, Nate used to be a professional baseball player. So did you ever think you'd be this excited about IRAs?
no, never. No, I wanted to be in real estate. Now I got into real estate, and by luck, I stumbled onto self-directed IRAs. And I will tell you this, even most of the people I started with in real estate, they still don't know what a self-directed IRA is. I just became fascinated with it, and that's why I jumped into it. And I just like teaching people because I'm not selling investments, right? I'm just teaching people there's a different way to retire, and there's different investment opportunities. Do your own due diligence, but I've seen at least clients of mine, and I know you've had similar clients. There's just life-changing events happen to them when they're allowed to start picking their own investments and invest in things that are not on Wall Street but on Main Street, investments that are available to everybody. And truth be told, alts are not a new investment. They're just new to the public, because before, to invest in oil and gas, mineral rights, you had to be a good old boy. You had to know the people that
You
were
had to
doing
know
it because they
somebody.
weren't available online. Right now, everything is available online, and this is why alts are the fastest growing asset class in all of investments or alternative investments. There's a huge shift right now of people moving out of the stock market. Not anything against the stock market, but the opportunities that lie in alternative investments are things that are new to most people, and a lot of people are liking it. So,
You know, and I do want to say, I just did a conference this last week because I know we're ending right now. Okay, the conference I went to, and I'm not going to mention the name, but was absolutely terrible. And the reason it was terrible is they were giving away all these free tickets, and they kind of attracted just what I'm going to say is a low quality type of people that kind of came into this event, and it was supposed to be about education, and I didn't learn anything. And so I do want to give you a special thanks, Nate, because your guys' team, when you host events like the Alt Asset coming up, man, you learn a lot. And I think it's really great that you guys can put so many good speakers in the same room and get people educated. And like, look, find an investment. It doesn't matter who you invest with, but there's a lot of good options out there. And it groups, and at like the Alt Asset Summit coming up in October, like a month away now.
October 24th, 25th, 36 days away. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
if you guys want to meet Derek, if you want to meet Troy Eckert, if you want to meet their team, meet our team, and come out for a great 2-day event where we're going to talk all about alts, and you're not pitched anything. This is all education. You guys grab tickets to the Alt Asset Summit. As we mentioned earlier in the program, if you joined in late, we're sold out on VIPs. VIPs are no more. There's 0 VIPs left, but there's still GA tickets left. There's about 60 GA tickets left. We're going to expect a great audience, great speakers. Derek will be there. Troy will be there. I'll be there. Matt will be there. Mark will be there. Everybody that you need to know is going to be there. And it's going to be at the Orange Tree Resort in Scottsdale, October 24th, 25th. So jump on to altassetsummit.com. I put it in the chat there, guys. Use Nate 100 for promo. If you guys want $100 off, you can try to get VIPs. I think there's one left as of this morning, but I'm pretty sure it's gone. But you can try that. That should work for VIP and GA. $100 discount on me.
Boom. Thanks, Nate, for having me.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate your time, man. Always good to have you. And if you guys got any questions for Derek, you got his contact information. And we had a lot of people ask, is this recorded? Yes, it's recorded. Everybody that watched and registered will get an email probably tomorrow by the end of the week that'll have the recording and the link, and it'll be up on YouTube as well. So thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Derek. It was a blast, man. You knocked it out of the park, and hope to see you guys on the next Directed IRA workshop. Have a great week.